Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Asian American Arts Alliance online information session in support of the City Artist Corps grant opportunity. I'm Lisa Gold, the Executive Director of A4. Quick accessibility check. I am a Hapa, half Korean, half white woman with dark brown hair pulled up in a top knot, and I'm wearing a black sleeveless blouse. So thank you again for joining us. I'm assuming because you're here, you are all familiar with A4, but for those of you who are not, the Asian American Arts Alliance is a 38-year-old nonprofit dedicated to supporting Asian American artists and arts organizations through resource sharing, promotion, and community building. We work to ensure equitable representation by fostering professional development and support to our community by offering pathways of access to cultural gatekeepers and resources, just like these CAC grants. I'm going to make a few announcements and some housekeeping items before I hand the reins over to Ting Lin, our CAC grants coordinator, and Theresa Vu, our CUNY Cultural Corps Intern, who is going to take you through the full presentation. So first of all, we have ASL interpretation today by Craig Ridgway and Libby Gatlin of Sign Nexus. So I suggest you pin their screens if you'd like to avail yourself of this service by clicking on the 3 dots in the top right corner of the interpreter's Zoom box. Second, we also have remote real-time captioning services, CART service by Lauren Shirley. So if you'd like to enable the captions, you should see a CC icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen that has the words live transcript below it. So you can click on that icon to enable those captions. And there are 3 quick A4 events I'd like to share before we start. Our town hall is back on Tuesday, July 20th at 6:30 p.m. And we're going to be focusing on film and media. So please join us to hear from the filmmakers behind Who Killed Vincent Chin and Confetti, as well as festival programmers and funders and more. So we will drop the link in the chat if you want to. Oh, sorry, it's a little party going on outside my door here. Also on Tuesday, July 27th, artist Pixie Lau will be in conversation with Angela Wai and Grace No in conjunction with Pixie's exhibition at Photographiska. And they're going to be talking about identity and branding in the age of digital media. And this is a ticketed in real life event at the museum at Photographiska. So if you would like to attend, we'll drop the link in the chat as well. And finally, on Friday, July 30th at 8 p.m., we are presenting a concert at Lincoln Center's Restart Stages. So it's going to be, we'll have a special performance by electronic music artist Ravish Momi and dancer Ishita Milli, followed by a set from our virtual residency artist Migi Miyajima and her jazz quintet. So those are free tickets, and also the link is in the chat for that event too. So come join us outside at Lincoln Center. And you can sign up for our biweekly newsletter to stay on top of all of these events and so much more. So, or just check out our website at aaartsalliance.org, or you can follow us on social media. I want to thank our friends at the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs for including us in this incredible opportunity for artists and for their efforts to ensure equitable access to this process. So before, I'd like to offer just a brief land acknowledgement, because if we were meeting in real life, we would be meeting in the A4 offices, which are on the unceded lands of the Lenape and Canarsie peoples. But because we're meeting virtually, I'm going to share a digital land acknowledgement, which was written by Canadian theater artist Adrienne Wong, because we're all occupying different physical spaces today. Since our activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's also take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We're using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art that we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. I invite you to join me in acknowledging all of this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good use of this time, and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. Just a quick reminder also for you to please ask any questions that you have in the Q&A box, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. And if we do not answer your question in this session, or we don't answer it to your satisfaction, please send us an email to cac@aaartsalliance.org, and we will respond as soon as possible. So Ting, I cede the floor to you. Please take it away.
Hi, thank you, Lisa, for your wonderful remark. Welcome. This is an info session on the City Artists Corps Grant Program. My name is Ting, and for accessibility reason, I'm a Taiwanese woman in 30s, and I have long, very long, straight black hair. I am the CAC Outreach Manager at A4. Asian American Arts Alliance is one of a number of New York City arts organizations partnering with the Department of Cultural Affairs and NYFA on this effort to get federal stimulus dollars to New York City artists. This session will last about an hour, including the Q&A at the end. And here is the agenda. We're going to begin by giving you a quick overview of the City Artists Corps Grant. Then we'll cover who is eligible, the public engagement project grantees need to achieve, the criteria for making awards, details about the money, the timeline, and how to complete the application form. We'll leave lots of time for questions at the end. And like Lisa mentioned, if we don't get to all the questions, we strongly encourage you to reach out to me at cac@aaartsalliance.org. It's also in the chat. So let's jump in with the overview. City Artists Corps grants are intended to support New York City-based working artists who have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. The program will distribute one-time 5,000 grants to over 3,000 artists. That's $15 million into the pockets of New York City-based artists. The funding comes from federal stimulus money to help New York City recover from the pandemic. The grant will help artists sustain their practice and engage the public in arts. Each grantee will present a creative activity that engages the public in New York City between July and October. We'll talk more about that later, but please note that the grant does not need to be spent on the project. So first, who is eligible? To be eligible, you must meet the 4 criteria. 1, live in New York City. 2, you must be 21 years old or older. 3, you must have a social security number, an individual taxpayer identification number, or an EIN. And 4, you must be a practicing artist. So now let's look at these one by one. You must be a current resident of New York City and must have maintained residency since at least January 2020. So if you moved to New York City after January 2020 or moved away and came back, you are not eligible. You will have to provide evidence of residency by uploading an official document that includes your name and address. Note that this document must be from October, November, or December 2020. Some examples of the acceptable documents include utility bill, bank statement, credit card statement, residential lease, roommate agreement, rent receipt, studio lease, valid government ID, or any other form of official document that listing your name and address. So as long as that document is dated October, November, or December 2020. So if you are going to present a utility bill, bank statement, or rent receipt, it cannot be from this month. Again, it must be from last October, November, or December. You can use your driver's license or ID NYC, but only if it was issued in October, November, or December 2020. You must be 21 years old or older as of June 8th, 2021. You will need to provide a government issue ID that includes your name and birth date. This can be a passport, driver's license, ID NYC, or any state issued document. Again, please make sure your document has both your name and the date of birth. You must have social security number, individual taxpayer identification number, or employer identification number. You won't be asked to provide this with your application, but if you are awarded a grant, you will have to provide this information to receive the funds. Finally, you must be an artist with a sustained, ongoing commitment to your creative practice, and you have to be able to demonstrate that. Artists in all disciplines are eligible. This includes craft and textile artists, including those who works in ceramics, glass, wood, metal, fiber, and mixed media, all forms of dance and choreography, community arts, design and architecture, including environmental or functional design, digital and electronic arts, folk and traditional arts, interdisciplinary work, literary arts including fiction, nonfiction, poetry, playwriting, screenwriting, music and sound arts, including composer working in any and all style of music, theater and performance, including directing, live action, puppetry, and video and film of all forms, and last, visual arts, including painting, photography, printmaking, drawing, and sculpture. Grantees can work with other artists, collaboratives, or organizations on their public engagement project, but the funds will only be awarded to individual artists only. So apply only as an individual, not on behalf of artist group, not on behalf of a collective. For example, if you are in a band, we recommend everyone in your band to apply independently. And we'll discuss more on this later. But just remember, this is a solo artist grant, and you must apply as an individual. When you apply, you will need to demonstrate that you are an artist with an active practice. You'll need to provide documentation of your creative work from 2019 or 2020. This could be a work sample, such as slides of the visual artwork you made, publication of the literary work you wrote, a program from a performance or an exhibition, news items, or press release. If you don't have any of those, you could include a brief letter from a producer, presenter, director, or curator that you worked with, stating that the project you took part in. Remember, this needs to be from 2019, 2020, and 2021. Be certain to include the date and of the work sample. We are told that many applications are ineligible because the work sample is not dated or it's not from 2019, 2020, or 2021. So please, please, please make sure you triple check your work sample and have dates on it. In addition, you also need to upload a resume or a CV. If you don't have one of those, you can also include a brief bio of up to 300 words. Be sure that this resume, CV, or bio describe your artistic work from 2019, 2020, or 2021. And must list artistic practice accomplishment and list activities that you are part of between 2019 and 2021. A few other points about eligibilities. Applicants cannot be enrolled in a degree-seeking program. Cultural workers such as stage manager, art handlers, curators, and others are not eligible for this grant. However, cultural workers who have their own artistic practice outside of their job are eligible to apply. You must show documentation of your consistent personal practice rather than a documentation of a professional practice. Just make sure you demonstrate that you are an active artist. Also, employees of the City of New York, NYFA, or any of the partnering organizations supporting the CAC grant are not eligible. This includes board members of these organizations or immediate family members. So to recap, if you answer yes to all of the above, you are eligible. As long as you are not a student in a degree-seeking program, you are not an employee of New York City, and not an employee, board member, or family member of one of our partner organizations. So now we're going to look at public engagement requirement. This is a really important part of your applications. You must have an arts or creative focus for this public engagement activities. These activities must occur within the 5 boroughs of New York City, and this must take place before October 31st, 2021. Artists are strongly encouraged to present a live event. However, artists with disabilities and those who are immunosuppressed for whom it is not safe to engage in live in-person performance can propose a live virtual activity. Engagement activities can be indoors or outdoors, and it must be free to the public. It can be ticketed if it needs to, for space or public safety reasons. For example, if your indoor venue has a limited capacity, you can require registration and tickets to attend, but you cannot charge for those tickets. Some examples of eligible creative engagement activities include a live performance, such as a concert, play, a reading, a recital, a public screening of a film or other media work, and art exhibitions in a community center or other public or private venue. This also includes apartment gallery setups. A live art making experience, such as painting a mural, a live drawing session, a workshop, an artist talk, demonstration, or studio tour. There is really no limit to what form this might take. The takeaway here is that it doesn't have to be elaborate or super expensive. Your public engagement activity can be part of an established or recurring program that is already planned. It can also be featured as part of an existing festival or program that is already set to take place this summer or fall. Or it can be a brand new event that will be independently scheduled. Echoing my earlier example about being in a band, more than one artist can apply for the same project. So if you and your partner each apply, you might both get the grant, or only one of you might get the grant. Your project can involve other artists, and you might pay them for their participation. But remember, again, this grant is only for one artist who is applying. Creative engagements do not need to feature new work. It can be a restaging, an exhibition, a showing, reading, screening, or demonstration of work you previously created. This does not need to be a final production or complete product either. Remember, acceptable types of public engagement activities include, for example, a studio tour, open rehearsal, a workshop, artist talk, or demonstration. And you do not have to have all the logistics figured out before you apply. It is okay to state time and place to be determined. If you are awarded a grant, there will be resources available to help find an event to host your project or to obtain a permit for performing in a public space. Grantee will have to do all the work to set this up and coordinate. This won't be done for you, but there will be assistance and resources provided. If you are looking for information for a permit, NYFA is actually hosting a workshop on performing outdoors on July 27th. There should be a link in the chat. Now, last, grantees will need to document the projects by submitting a very simple final report, and that includes 2 photographs of your public engagement activities. So now I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague, Theresa, who will talk about how applications will be evaluated and the criteria for awarding the grant.
Thank you, Ting, and hi everyone. My name is Theresa. I'm a Vietnamese woman. My hair is tied half up and I'm wearing a dark blue shirt and brown glasses. And I am A4's Cultural Corps Intern this summer. And I'm going to be talking about Cycle 1 and 2, and they are a weighted lottery that take into account zip codes that are hardest hit by the pandemic, annual household income, and disability status. Cycle 3 will also be a weighted lottery. It will consider some additional factors in order to distribute funds equitably to those who have been most impacted by the pandemic. So those factors will include not only zip code and disability status, but also race and ethnicity, gender identity, sexuality, country of origin, and language in which the application was submitted, annual household income, and artistic discipline. Applications will not be evaluated on artist talent or achievement. You will need to meet the eligibility criteria by demonstrating that you are an artist with an active practice. Beyond that, don't sweat making a case for your talent or achievement because this application is not an audition. So just to reiterate, applications will not be evaluated on quality or originality of the artistic engagement that you propose. You will, of course, want to make a meaningful contribution to the City Artist Corps goal of creating many, many opportunities for New Yorkers to encounter the arts this summer and this fall. You will want to engage the public in a way that is satisfying and meaningful to you and your audience. But keep in mind that proposing an elaborate or novel project will not increase your odds of being selected. Again, this process is a lottery and also designed to distribute funds to communities hardest hit by the pandemic. It is not an audition or a contest, and no one will be judging the quality of your work. So we're going to talk about the money now. As we already said, City Artist Corps will distribute $5,000 grants to over 3,000 artists, and that is more than $15 million for New York City artists. All of the grants will be the same amount, $5,000, and grantees will have $4,000 upfront and the final $1,000 when they submit their final report. The application does not need to include a budget. You are not asked to state how you will spend the money, and in your final report, you will not be asked to report on how you use the funds. If you are awarded a grant, you can spend the money in any way you want. You can use it for the public engagement activity, but you don't have to. This is federal stimulus money. It's meant to help New York City artists recover, thrive, and continue their creative practice. You can use this money as you see fit to help sustain your creative practice, and this can include rent, food, or any other expense. So we'll do a quick overview of timeline and deadlines. City Artist Corps are being allocated in 3 cycles, and cycle 1 has already happened, so we're going to move on to cycle 2. Cycle 2 opened on July 6th and closes this upcoming Tuesday, July 20th, and cycle 2 grantees will be notified on August 2nd. If you are awarded a grant in cycle 2, engagements must take place from August 20th to October 31st. Cycle 3 will open on July 27th and close on August 10th, and grantees will be notified on August 25th. If you are awarded a grant in cycle 3, engagements will take place from September 3rd to October 31st. If you submit an application that is eligible and you are not granted an award, you will be automatically considered in the next cycle. So for example, if you applied in cycle 1 and do not get a grant, you will be automatically be included in cycle 2. And if you are not awarded a grant in cycle 2, as long as your application is eligible, you will be included in the pool for cycle 3, but you cannot submit another application. Additionally, if someone is eligible, but their project date is not flexible and happens before August 20th, they do not qualify for cycles 2 and 3. So just keep in mind those deadlines for engagements. In the application, it asks if project dates are flexible, and if they are, your application will automatically move forward. If the dates are not flexible, but occur within the range of cycle 2 and 3, they also move forward. All creative engagements must take place by October 31st. Every grantee will be required to submit a final report by November 21st. We're told that the report form will be very simple, and it only needs to include 2 photographs of your public engagement activity. So be sure to document it by taking pictures with your phone or have a friend do it for you. You will also need to include an attendance estimate. You will not get the final $1,000 of your grant until you submit this report. So we're going to talk about the application now. Applications are being submitted online through Submittable. And if you already have a Submittable account, all you have to do is log in. Otherwise, you will need to create a Submittable account, which is free and just requires an email address. And you can find the link in the chat right now. You'll need the following to apply. You need proof of New York City residency, proof of age, a resume, CV, or brief bio, documentation of your creative practice in 2019 or 2020, and be prepared to describe your proposed public engagement project. To apply, you'll need a computer with internet connection, and you'll need to upload scanned copies of documents. Submittable does allow you to save your application as a draft and come back later to finish it. It is also completely okay to have help completing this application. If an artist cannot do it themselves, a family member, friend, or support person may apply on behalf of an artist who is unable to complete the application on their own. And we're told it is not a complex application, so don't worry. And we have some helpful links for you. It can also be found in the chat with application guidelines, frequently asked questions. There are more technical assistance one-on-one sessions. So if you check out the schedule on the NYFA website, there's a lot of resources for you. There's also translated information, and finally, the application link again. So now we will take questions in the Q&A section.
So we already received a number of questions in the Q&A, and perhaps we can read those responses aloud for people who may not have access to the Q&A. So I will share these with you. The first question was, Victoria had asked, how would one define disproportionately impacted? Theresa or Ting, you want to answer that one?
Sorry, Lisa, can you answer the question? You cut off for me? So I actually didn't hear.
Apologize. Yeah, I have, I think we have unstable internet because of the power situation. Victoria had wondered, how would one define disproportionately impacted when we talked about how the grants were going to be awarded? You could talk about how we're, the criteria for selection.
Yes, so we as a coalition have been collecting data on zip codes, and zip codes that have been most heavy hit by the pandemic. And this, based on from NYFA's data, we are also looking into the zip code, like what Theresa mentioned, this will also be related to disability status and also household income.
Great, thank you. There was another question. For example, for the public engagement, a film festival screening, does the screening have to be free?
Yes, the screening must be free. So again, for all the public engagement activities, the activities must be free. And again, you can require registration or ticket it if it's a rooftop screening, so you can't have too many people there. You can do that, but you cannot charge for the tickets.
Okay. Another question somebody had asked was, they had read that the project deadline for cycle 2 is due in October, and they were concerned that if the project is completed after October, whether or not there would be a penalty. So I responded that all of the projects must be completed within the time frame specified for each grant cycle. And if you are unsure whether or not you can complete your project within the cycle 2 timeline, then perhaps you should consider applying for cycle 3. There was another question. Harley asked, do I have to pay taxes on the grant? And the question is this, the answer is this, yes, this is taxable income. We are not accountants. So whatever your individual tax situation is, I cannot advise you on that, but I can let you know that this is taxable income. Foberholzer, another attendee, asked whether or not if we think it is better to submit a CV or to write a short bio. I do not think one is better than the other. They ask for just proof that you are a practicing artist. So whatever you feel more comfortable submitting, that should be fine as long as it meets the requirements.
Can I jump in, Lisa?
Of course.
I think whichever one better shows that you are a practicing artist will help your application. So if you feel like you can write a bio that can better describe what position you're in right now in your practice, then that might be better than a CV.
And I also, oh, go ahead, Ting.
And just to make sure your bio include your artistic accomplishment. So remember, like the bio is only 300 words. So you can weigh which better communicate as many accomplishment and artist work that show your practice.
Yeah, and an important thing to note that we noticed in the cycle one, the first cycle application, there were some artists who did not specify any artistic activity between 2019 and 2021. So if you are creating a CV or a bio, please, please, please remember to include your artistic accomplishments during this time period. It's very important. Okay, so there was another question. Please go over engagement location type categories, i.e. partnering or presenting with venue. So basically, we are asking for any in-person presentation. This can be literally on the sidewalk in front of your apartment. It could be inside your apartment, as long as it is a public location. Of course, you can partner with a venue. There is a process happening right now that we are not involved in, but there is a process whereby venues across the city in all of the boroughs are trying to coordinate to create a list for artists who receive this grant, so that if there are venues that are available to support CAC grantees, that you will be able to connect with them. We do not know when we will have that list of venues, so I think it's probably best for you to either state TBD if you do not know the venue, or to select something that you feel comfortable presenting around. I hope that answers your question, Oriola.
Yeah, and I am going to add that, so in the slides, I also mentioned that if granted the award, you will be able to have assistance and resources that help you match a venue if it's not a public. So I strongly encourage you to join the NYFA's public space permit events just to learn about that process. And I'm sure they will give updates on how they're going to partner with indoor venues.
Yes, okay. Taylor asks, would a link to my website, which includes my portfolio, count as a work sample proof of artistic work? It provides photos and dates. As far as I know, yes, that would count. Another critical thing, make sure you test your links. Do not send broken links. That was a problem in cycle one. So just want to reiterate, before you submit anything, make sure your links are working. Anybody want to add anything? No? Okay.
No, but I will just say that, Taylor, can you email me that questions, because I want to double check something for you. I do know that it is better to upload a file and make sure you include the dates in those files, but you and I can talk about that.
Great. Okay, Inju wants to know, is there a minimum for people who attend your exhibition? And the answer is no. Okay, when is the timeline deadline for cycle 3 again? Theresa or Ting, can you share? I don't have the presentation open on my desktop.
Cycle 3 will open on July 27th and close August 10th. And you'll find out if you are granted an award on August 25th. And the engagement time period will be from September 3rd to October 31st. I can also answer that in the chat.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Oriola and Mary also noted that they had a lot of problems with the link and could not access the application questions until this morning. They're nervous that this may happen again. Who do I contact for help if that happens again? So two things. I think there's an address. Can we post the NYFA address for support in the chat? Theresa, you can do that. Thank you. Okay, so there's an email address, but also the application is only open during certain periods. So it's possible that you accessed it in between periods. I don't know if that was the case. If not, sorry. But if you can access it now, you may want to get into the application, either cut and paste it or save it so that you can work on it offline, just to prevent any kind of issues like that again. Okay, could a senior center be a venue? Absolutely, yes. A senior center can definitely be a venue. Community center, senior center, totally acceptable. Okay, here's another question. If one is a feature-length narrative filmmaker who typically can only make one feature film every 3 to 6 years, beside the occasional music videos, commercials, shorts, what would best constitute as showing that I am active? Samples from current screenplays, pitches that show I am continuously developing projects, or a video reel of all my past feature works, including commercial works, etc.
I can answer this one. So if this is the case, they do take a brief letter from a producer or a director that you've worked with, or it could be a curator who has shown your film before. Just make sure the dates and the time period match what the application is asking for. And if you have more questions including more specific details, like you want to brainstorm who is better to ask to write this letter, please email me.
Great. All right, there was another question about the link to the public venue meeting. So I dropped that in the chat again. That is by NYFA on the 27th of July. So you can find that in the chat, or you can find it on the NYFA website, nyfa.org. Let's see. Jason wants to know, will you be notified if there is a problem with your application? And the answer is yes. They will attempt to email you and give you the opportunity to correct it. Ting, do you have any feedback on that?
Yes, but they will not be able to tell you until the deadlines pass. So, and they won't be able, based on the number of the applications NYFA is receiving, they won't be able to respond to you as this particular thing is what is missing. So they will share a short list of these are the potential problems of your application. So you'll just have to go over the bullet points that they provided.
Right, okay. Fantastic. So we have an attendee who already submitted yesterday, hooray, but could not submit an MP4 file. So they had to post the link in a Word document and upload it. So they want to know if that's okay, or how can they get help? Could I resubmit? Ting, do you want to answer that?
Because I think this is more of a question that's related to the technical system of NYFA. So we strongly encourage you to reach out to NYFA like now or very soon. Theresa is going to put in the email that you could use to reach out to NYFA.
It is cacgrants@nyfa.org. That is the email. So, okay, another attendee. I was engaged in Zoom demonstrations during COVID. So could I send screenshots of this engagement? What is the best way to show my work since in-person engagement wasn't possible? I I guess I just want to understand if this is for work samples. If it's work samples, then yes, you can send screenshots and upload those. Again, be sure to include that activity in your bio or resume. Anybody else want to pipe in? No? Okay. Great. Let's see. What if I don't have much activities during 2020 because of the pandemic? That is an issue, right? I think that you can do your best to demonstrate any kind of artistic activity that you were doing during that time, certainly before and after. So if you can perhaps list more of the activities that you were doing in 2019 and 2021, I think that that should suffice. I don't know, Ting or Theresa, do you want to add to that?
No, as long as it's from 2019 to present day, that would be the best work samples you can provide.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say too. Like, it's understandable that 2020 is sort of a blank year for a lot of artists. So I would focus on 2019 and 2021 if you have any.
If you did engage or worked with an organization or a place that can write a letter that I guess can provide some proof that you're practicing, that might be a better route for you.
Okay, the question is it up to $5,000 or $5,000 each person? Each grant is $5,000. That's it, $5,000 each. Okay, that's an easy one for me. All right, Maurizio, I also work as a teacher in New York City and I receive monthly dated pension updates. May I submit that as proof of residency? I think there may be another issue here that you are a New York City employee. So that may be an eligibility question. I think, Maurizio, we may want to get back to you on this just to be sure. I don't want to give you the wrong information, but if you could email us at cac@aaartsalliance.org, I'd like to make sure that we answer this correctly for you. Let's see, my brother owns an acting studio. Good for you and your brother. Would an in-person acting class be okay? Absolutely. If you want to offer that as your public engagement activity, that is great. Totally fine.
Just make sure this is free.
Yes. Again, all activities, all public engagement activities must be free. Okay. Do the recent work samples have to be work that fits the definition of public engagement? For example, if you're a poet, is it more important to show proof of a completed book or zine or press material from a speaking event? Or is the public engagement aspect compartmentalized to the concept we are proposing? The latter. The public, you can be a poet working for the past 10 years in the privacy of your own apartment, publishing on blogs and in periodicals. It is only for this grant that you have to propose a public engagement activity. I hope that's clear. I'm going to assume it is. Okay. All right. And somebody else asked, could I provide past press releases or news article links of my artist activity prior to 2019? So you can, but we are asking for very specifically demonstration of your practice from 2019 to the present day, 2019, 2020, 2021. So as long as you provide demonstration of your work as an artist during this time period, you can submit that but just make sure that you also address what the application is asking for, which is demonstration or proof of artistic practice from 2019, 2020, and 2021. Okay. I would like to pass this on. Taylor says they would like to pass this on to other artists of color in their life. Can they be of other ethnicities? Oh, I just lost this question. I don't know what happened here, but basically, they do not have to be Asian American. Any artist that meets the criteria that we set forth, practicing artist, non-engaged in school, blah, 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 living in New York City, you are totally welcome to apply. Let's see, Jason says, the location can be TBD, but can your creative engagement be TBD? I'm very flexible on this project. I am gonna say, not really. Like, you need to show, this is one of the things that I do believe that they are looking for in determining whether or not you meet the criteria, is that you have thought carefully about how you are going to engage the public in your project. So the details around where it can take place, there's a lot of flexibility in that, but what format it's going to take, how you are going to reach out to people to let them know about your project, those are things that you need to demonstrate in your application. Ting and Theresa, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I would also like to add, like, I don't have all the context of what type of artist you are, but like, for example, if you are a painter and you're not sure if you want to do a live drawing session or a studio tour, you can propose one and make sure it meets all the requirements that we look for public engagement, but you are allowed to change your mind later. Like, let's say the day you plan to do an outdoor live drawing, it was raining, then you do it a studio tour. So like, that's okay. But again, just make sure it's free to all public, and you can make a case that it's public engagement and it's free for all.
Okay. Mija states that their household income is over a certain threshold and want to know if they are still eligible. So as long as you meet the other criteria, that you are not a student, that you have lived in New York City, all of those, as long as you meet the criteria, yes, you are eligible. It's just that priority is going to be given to artists who have, like we said, been disproportionately affected by the pandemic, meaning people who are from a lower income range, people who have a disability status, and people who reside in zip codes that were hardest hit by the pandemic. So yes, you are definitely still eligible as long as you meet those other criteria. Let's see, okay. Ariola Mary, if I want to do my event at the Botanical Gardens, would that be considered partnering and presenting with a venue, or coordinating on my own at a public location? The categories are a bit confusing to me. I understand that. Yes, it can be confusing. So if you are doing an event, the Botanical Gardens is a New York City cultural institution group, and I don't think you are allowed to just do your own events at that venue. It's like, you can't just do your own event at Queen's Theater. You have to coordinate with that venue. So that would be considered partnering and presenting with them. But you don't have to do your, you can do it in a public park or in another venue. So I don't know, I'm not sure that I answered that correctly or clearly enough. Does Theresa or Ting, do you want to clarify? Ariella Mary, did I address that for you?
So I would also say it really depends on which botanical gardens. There is city owned, that's free. There is private owned. So based on this question, I'm not really sure which one it is. So if it's a private owned, like they charge tickets to go in, that is not eligible because of the public engagement activity. So if you are planning something outdoor, again, I think the best way for all these specific questions, like I would need to know which botanical garden you're thinking of and what type of activities. And so perhaps reaching out to me is the best way.
Yeah, I would suggest, following up with us if you have questions. Somebody wanted to know how many words for a CV. I do not believe there is a word limit on the CV, only on the bio. So your CV can be as long as it takes to demonstrate your continued practice as an artist, especially between the years of 2019 and 2021. So I think those are all of the questions. And we've got one more. We've got 3 minutes, so we can answer this one. Richard wants to know, does it matter if I partner with a producing organization that receives DCA funding? I honestly do not think who you partner with matters as long as the activity is open to the public and free.
That is correct. That is what I would say as well.
Okay, so thank you, Richard. And thank you all. If we did not get to your question, again, we will have, we're actually going to have some one-on-one sessions that you can sign up for to get information directly to meet with me or with Ting to answer your questions, because we want you to get this money. So stay in touch with us. Check out our website or the NYFA site that lists all of the one-on-one workshops by all of the partner organizations as well as A4. So we are here for you. We are here to support you. We want you to get what you deserve and what you need as artists. So yes, we send you good luck to everyone. And if you want to watch this again, it will be up on the A4 YouTube channel and our Facebook page on Monday. I also want to give a big shout out to our ASL interpreters. Thank you so much. And thank you to our closed captioners. Thank you, thank you. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great day.